us now is one of nearly 1,000 artists who will be joining you in Ann Arbor July 21st through 23rd for the Ann Arbor Art Fair. Helen Gotlib joins us now on the Michigan Megacast. Helen, thank you for being with us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So first, you're a mixed media fine artist. Can you explain to us what that means and define what mixed media art is?
Well, mixed media could be a lot of different things. For me, my work is a mixture of printmaking and wood carving, several different types of printmaking. Like I'll do etching, woodblock, dry point printmaking, all on paper, and then I adhere it onto wood panels and sometimes go back in with carving and varnishing, and then I'll also do gilding with like gold and palladium leaf for some of the highlights afterwards. So it's still, besides the carving, which is pretty shallow, is still like pretty flat. There's, when they say there's like 2D mixed media and 3D mixed media, you might see people with like more three-dimensional sculptural pieces in a mixed media category as well. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And so what drew you to this form of art? Because there's so many different avenues that artists can go. Sometimes they take multiple avenues, but what drew you to mixed media as your primary form of art?
To me, I always loved drawing. And then when I was in school, I thought like, okay, I was really focusing on scientific illustration, and then I did some figure drawing. But like when I found printmaking, I was immediately like, wait, all these pieces that I'm spending like 20, 30, 40, 50 hours on for one piece, I could actually work on a plate and then create multiples. And so that was really exciting. And that was the first thing about printmaking that got me excited about that. But then within the printmaking techniques, there's sometimes the plates look really interesting, but people, when you're exhibiting printmaking, you're just exhibiting the print that is off the plate. So the thing that has really added the mixed media kind of element to my work was saying, oh, these plates are really cool. Like, what if I tried to add some of the texture from the plates into the finished piece? So it's not like a printed block, but it's like I'm taking the print and then carving back into it to try and get some of the likeness of like a wood block and have that juxtaposition of the printing and the carving next to each other to add an element of interest.
So where do you draw your inspiration from as you're creating these pieces of art? Does it depend on the individual piece, or are there certain things that just trigger an idea in your head and then you get to work on it?
To me, most of my most recent work is all inspired by nature. And I would just say in general, that's a theme throughout all of my work. But I really, 8 years ago, I moved out to the country, and I've just love exploring all of the natural preserves and recreation centers around here. So a lot of times I'll be hiking like every day in Stinchfield Woods or Westlake Preserve or Crooked Lake Trail. And then sometimes I'll take snapshots like when I'm hiking and reference back to those for some of my landscape pieces.
And so you had previously, you mentioned so many times printmaking as one of the mixed media forms that you practice. You, according to my notes, you studied traditional Japanese woodblock printmaking in Kyoto, Japan. How did that experience shape your art and even beyond that, just your approach to creating the art that you make?
Well, it's interesting at the time. So my professor at U of M for printmaking, one of my printmaking professors was Takeshi Takahara, and I was looking at all these different programs to study abroad. And originally I was thinking to study in a Spanish-speaking country, but all of their programs were like art history based, and I really wanted to do studio practice. And he was like, oh, there's a really cool program at Kyoto Seika University, and maybe you should try that out. And I'm thinking, at the time I was like 19, I was like, I've never even thought about Asia. I don't even speak Japanese. And he was like, oh, there's a crash course at U of M, 10 credits in 10 weeks, and I was like, okay. I think when you're that age, is like anybody who's kind of a mentor or somebody you look up to tells you something and you're like, I'll try that. So anyway, I did that, and it was an amazing experience, just getting comfortable with the country and the language. And sometimes I feel like when you travel and you experience something so different than what you're used to, it takes time to fully sink in. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously the work that I made there was, I learned the traditional techniques, but I think that some of the aesthetics from being in Asia for a year really sunk in after the fact, and still, come out in my work now. Some of the kind of like minimal, maximal negative space in some of the pieces that I make, for sure.
We're joined by Helen Gotlib, a mixed media fine artist, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. You'll find her art and the art of so many others at Ann Arbor's annual art fair. The Ann Arbor Art Fair, July 21st through 23rd in downtown Ann Arbor. 30 blocks of the city will be utilized for this art fair, as it has each and every year, and this is a tradition in the city of Ann Arbor. 30 blocks, 1,000 plus artists, live entertainment. More information on the Ann Arbor Art Fair can be found on theannarborartfair.com. That's theannarborartfair.com. And so, Helen, I'd like to ask this of all these artists that we do interview who will be at Ann Arbor or just in general on this program. Give us a little bit of insight into your journey into becoming an artist as your full-time work. Where did that begin, and when did you really think in your head, I want to be an artist and I'm going to put in the work to make this something that I do for a living and something I do that I just really enjoy every day?
Well, I think I knew since I was a really little kid that I wanted to be an artist. And I remember going to the art fair like with my parents when I was really young, and just, walking around and seeing all the different booths and seeing all the people there. And it was always fascinating to me. And I thought, like, when I grow up, like maybe I can, exhibit here. And so I think from the very young age of even by the time I was like 12 or 13, I would go downtown and hang out with my sister and some of my friends and do hair wraps on the diag and just like kind of be there experiencing everything that was going on. And then I started doing the artisans market. And growing up in Ann Arbor, there's a lot of opportunities to show your work, when you're young, like before I think to have one of the booths in the art fair, you have to be maybe 18 or something, and unless it's like an emerging artist program. But anyway, so I was always kind of like these little steps, like trying, selling my little, candles that I made or drawings or whatever, like little craft projects. And then, I went to art school, and art school is really confusing because they teach you so much technique, and sometimes like maybe in scientific illustration or industrial design or graphic design or something, they teach you more of the business of it a little bit. But like in the fine arts, if you don't go to grad school, or even if you go to grad school, I don't think that there's as much talk about like how to make a living as an artist. And I think that the fact that I grew up in Ann Arbor and saw the Ann Arbor Art Fair happening every year, it was kind of like this opportunity, to say like, oh, here is an example of what working artists are doing, and they're making it work. And you see some of the same artists like coming back year after year with new bodies of work. And so it was kind of cool that was happening, while I was in art school. And I was like, I think the year I graduated or the year before I graduated, one of my friend's parents had a business downtown, and he said, oh, you guys can just set up a booth in front of my business if you want, and that was just like the first experience of like really having a booth like during the show. And yeah, it was just I don't know, it was like a slow progression, but it was always kind of there in the background, like this is an option of way to do it. And once I started doing the art fair circuit, I also had galleries approach me from around the country. So now I showed a few galleries, or a handful of galleries as well. And it all kinds of like builds on top of each other. Like the more you do something, the more people see your work, the more people come back, the more it makes the business more viable.
We're joined by Helen Gotlib, mixed media fine artist, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. You can find more information on her art and the art of almost 1,000 other artists who will be joining her at the Ann Arbor Art Fair by visiting theannarborartfair.com. That's theannarborartfair.com for more information. Again, that event is Thursday and Friday, July 21st and 22nd, 10 a.m. until 9 p.m., and Saturday, July 23rd, 10 a.m. until 8 p.m., all throughout Ann Arbor. 30 blocks of the city will be filled with art, artists, and entertainment at the Ann Arbor Art Fair. More information at theannarborartfair.com. And so for you mentioned that you're on the art show circuit and you're traveling to different fairs and festivals to present your art. Can you give some insight into that dynamic and how that impacts your approach to creating this art, but also on the other side, how you feel as an artist experiencing being around so many other artists and being around so many other art lovers in so many different places?
That experience has been really lovely over the years, for sure. As far as like making the work and having a show schedule, I do get busier showing work in the late spring and throughout the summer. And then normally, I'd say from like October through February, I have uninterrupted studio time. And so like if I have a bigger project to work on, I try and work on larger pieces then. And then throughout the summer, it's like I could work on framing things or putting smaller pieces together before I go to in between shows if I'm not on the road. Like some of the shows, if they're far away, I will try to do like some, like in August, I have one in Park City, Utah, and then the following weekend in Sun Valley, Idaho. And I'll be on the road for a couple weeks. So I'm not going to be making work in between then. But the cool thing is that other artists that I know have the same show schedule. So we might go camping or check out something in the city in between. I feel like it was interesting. When I very first started doing shows with my partner, Dylan, who's also an artist, I remember going and like seeing other artists talking to each other, and you could tell they're all like making plans, and we were like, we don't know anybody, like what's going on? But then like, the more now that we've been doing the show circuit for like 19 years, and I think that it really happened after just like maybe, during the first year or second year we started doing shows, like you really start meeting like every weekend. And we used to do more shows. Like I think originally we did like maybe 14 to 16 shows a year. Now we're doing like 9 or 10 a year, but every weekend you're set up next to a different artist. And then when you're set up next to somebody for like all the time, all day long, it's like you get to know them faster and just make a strong connection with them. And then you realize, oh, this person knows this person. You end up going out to dinner, like I said, like doing all these extra activities together, sometimes like sharing an Airbnb house together. And so it's a really close knit community, and it's awesome. Yeah. I get excited. Like every time I go to an art fair, it's like when you're a kid and you like go to summer camp or something, it's like you get to see your friends that don't live close to you, but you get to see them and then all hang out together. And that part is really fun.
We're joined by Helen Gotlib, mixed media fine art artist that you will see at the Ann Arbor Art Fair this summer, this July 21st through 23rd in Ann Arbor. More information, theannarborartfair.com. And Helen, you mentioned that Ann Arbor is home, so you've been going to this art fair for a number of years, both as a participant and as just an art lover in general. So for you, coming back to this festival again and again, what about the Ann Arbor Art Festival, other than it simply being your hometown art festival, what about the Ann Arbor Art Fair draws you back as a professional?
Well, to me, I have very good sales at the Ann Arbor Art Fair, so that is definitely a big perk. It's something you want. And cultivating relationships with people who have been coming to the shows for years. I have collectors who come, almost every year to see, what I'm doing, and have been collecting for like the whole time I've been showing. So that is definitely like a huge bonus, to a show. And then also all the people that I know locally, it's a chance to visit with, with people that I don't see very often, but people will just come out of the woodwork. Like, I mean, at other shows on the other side of the country, I might have like a random friend in that town that will come say hi, but it's like at Ann Arbor, there's so many people that I've made connections with over the years that's a really nice feeling to see them, stop by and visit. But also, the cool thing about the Ann Arbor Art Fair is it's the largest art fair in the country. It's not just one art fair, but 4 or 5 different, 4 big art fairs, maybe some side little art fairs that happen like all at the same time. So instead of, having a show where most of the shows I go to are maybe between 100 and 250 artists, you get like you said, 1,000 artists coming from all over the place. So most of the artist friends that I know will be here. So that is also another really cool thing to be able to bond over and see everybody in the same place. And also sometimes like come and hang out, after the show. We live like in Dexter Township. It's just 25 minutes from town, but, have artists hang out after the show and sometimes make work together or just go hiking or swimming or make food together and all of that, all of the things that make the Ann Arbor Art Fair, are awesome.
More information about the art fair on the AnnArborArtFair.com. That's the AnnArborArtFair.com for more information on the art fair, on all the fairs and other shows within the art fair, and individual artists as well, such as Helen Gotlib, who joins us right now on the Megacast. And so before we let you go, do you have any pieces that you plan to showcase in particular, or kinds of pieces you plan to showcase at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair for those that may be interested in visiting your booth and seeing some of your art?
Yes, so I've been last over the winter, and I worked on a huge piece that's like 8 by 5.5 feet, and I don't have the piece right by me, but I did get the image printed on my postcard that's based on the Crooked Lake Trail, and I think you can see it if I hold it up right there.
Very nice.
So that's like a piece of the woods locally, and then so I'll have that piece, which will be a really huge piece, and then I'll have some more etchings, and this is one of my botanical pieces. You can see some details there.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see, maybe another landscape one I can show you real quick.
Very nice. Yes. All these can be found. Also, you can find a lot of her work on helengotlib.com. That's her website, helengotlib.com, for more information. Helen, before we let you go, anything else we haven't touched on today that you'd like to say to our audience or talk about in terms of what you'll be presenting at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair?
So my booth will be set up across from Hill Auditorium on North University. Booth number, let's see, NU823, and I hope to see you there.
Helen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.